Aloha, all my paranormal people. Welcome once again to another exciting episode of Insane Disappearances as I delve into the mysterious world of vanishings in our national parks, our forests, and yes, sometimes even our backyard and in rural and urban areas. And once again, I, Lamek, am your host for another exciting case that I am going to read to you today. All right. Now, this case is about a woman named Elizabeth Barbara Bartholomew. She went missing around January 8th, 1991, in Mid Pines, California. She was at the age of 80 when she disappeared. She was like 5 feet, 140 pounds. Now, Elizabeth Bartholomew and her husband lived on the outskirts of Mid Pines, California, near the intersection of Karstens and Plumbar Creek roads. There's a small valley near the intersection with an elevation of 2,800 feet. The valley has a small lake surrounded by heavy timber and vegetation in the Sierra National Forest. The Bartholomews lived on their daughter's 230-acre ranch and worked regularly on the maintenance of the property. Now, on January 8th, 1991, Elizabeth was riding the family tractor with her husband as they graded a winding dirt road on the ranch. Elizabeth stated she wanted to get off and head back to their residence. Bill, her husband, complied. He let her off the tractor and kept her in sight for a few minutes. He then looked back to where she should have been and she was gone. Okay, now see, that is another strange fact in a lot of these cases where people can be in the watchful eye of their family members or loved ones and they just vanish. Sometimes you can look away and look back and poof, they're just gone. Same case with the Dior Kuntz story, where he was in the company of his grandparents or grandfather, I believe, and he stated to the reporters that he just turned his head for a second. When he looked back, he just vanished. Okay, it is just that simple, folks. A lot of people don't want to believe that. They want to just say, "Oh, he was kidnapped," or "a bear took him," or something like that, or vice versa. But when you're dealing with the unknown and the paranormal, sometimes logical thinking is just not a very good thing to do. It's not something that should be a part of something like this, because when you can't figure out something in a logical sense, the only thing left is the illogical or the paranormal portion of what can really happen in places like this. Okay, now the Mariposa County Sheriff's Office immediately responded to and started an area search for Elizabeth. They said the vegetation around the ranch was so thick that they didn't believe she could have penetrated. At times, there were 150 searchers trampling over 25 square miles in search of Elizabeth. A total of 9,000 search hours were contributed in the effort. Law enforcement officials believe that Elizabeth became disoriented, lost, and walked away. Law enforcement conducted an extensive search and found no evidence of her. This is the type of case that I have a very hard time understanding. Now, the victim was 80 years old, right? So, how far could she go? That's my main question, because she may have been 80 years old, but she was fully functional at a certain point. But at the same time, she was old, so there's most elderly, they start walking in a certain area and they get a little tired and they want to sit down and want to rest. Okay, so for me, it's hard to imagine that law enforcement could not find any evidence of Elizabeth. That just doesn't make any sense to me. Especially in the area where she vanished, because she just walked a couple of feet and her husband was watching her the whole time. And then he looks away, then looks back, and boom, she just vanishes within that thick brush of vegetation. So somewhere it kind of reminds me of Field of Dreams. The scene where you see the ball players walking into the field, and then all of a sudden you see them just dissipate as they walk into deeper in the deeper part of the field, and then just gone. So to me that kind of plays a part, and it's almost like they may have gotten some of the ideas from these cases where people walk into fields and they just disappear. The further they go, and then they just go on at that point. But that's just my analogy in the whole situation. Now I would think that she still would have been able to. She still, even though they may think that she wandered away, because they probably thought that maybe she had Alzheimer's disease, or she was had a small case of it, and she just wandered off. And I know that does happen with a lot of elderly people. I have I have a friend that I work with, and this person has a mother, or had a mother. I think she passed away. She actually wandered off. Okay, she just walks out. I think she was trying to find the bathroom, and she actually went out the house to find the bathroom. That's just how disoriented she got. And when they found her, she was in the woods somewhere with her pants down. I guess she was about to use the bathroom because I guess she couldn't find the toilet. So it's very likely that a person can get disoriented and wander off. But I don't think that was the case here, because she wasn't that disoriented when she was on the tractor. And when she got off the tractor to walk back to her residence, or to their residence. So I still say that she should have been found, because especially if you had dogs, they should have found her scent, and you got heat-seeking helicopters, etc. All kinds of stuff that they could have used to find her, because it shouldn't have been that hard, because she didn't go that far. She just walked, into that brush to get back to the property, and she just vanished in thin air. But like I said, in cases like this where people just seem to vanish and under the watchful eye of their loved ones or family members, when stuff like that happens to people and you can't figure it out, and the sheriff starts talking about stuff that they just say off the top of their head, like they believe that she got disoriented and she just walked away. Where could she walk? Okay, we're talking about 2,800 feet in elevation. Okay, first of all, and the property was pretty big, but still, there was nowhere for her to go. Where could she go? And where could she wander off that fast? She walks into that field and vanishes. Okay, just straight in. Okay, and her husband was watching her the whole time. He knew where she was, and when he looked back in the area where she should have been, she was just gone. So she obviously, now this is the part where people don't like to talk about. They don't like to talk about the supernatural part of a disappearance, or the paranormal part, or the illogical part. Okay, but that's all you have left. Okay, now to me, like I said, I used an analogy about Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. Okay, and the scene where James Earl Jones and the ball players, they walk into the field, and as they're walking into it, they start to actually just disappear. Slowly disappear. It's like they dissipated as they walk, off into the distance, the field, and they just vanish, And I think that's what happened with her. She walks into a field, and there must have been some sort of dimensional doorway within that area, and without her even knowing, it was too late for her to react, and she just walks right into it and vanishes. And then she's never been found. She hasn't been seen since. Now I made this point before about where could they have gone? What could they be doing right now? Are they dead? Because there was a story about a pilot who flew over the Bermuda Triangle, and he has a daughter, and she is actually an actress, a very well-known actress. I just can't remember her name at this point. Her father, was an avid pilot. He was what you would call, I guess it was just something that he liked to do. He wasn't like a guy that flew people from place to place like a regular pilot at the airport, but he just flew because that was just one of his hobbies. And he flew over the Bermuda Triangle, and she went to a psychic, and they actually went out on a boat into the Bermuda Triangle at the peak hours of when stuff starts happening, and she picked him up and not on the boat, but she sensed him, and she said how he flew into the Bermuda Triangle and right into some sort of doorway that led to another dimension. And she said that he died instantly. So I'm guessing wherever he was, whatever kind of place that was, there might not have been any air or gravity, and he just plummeted to his death. I don't know. But she said, and there might not have even been any air where he was, or where he ended up with. And she said that he died instantly, or as soon as he flew into it. I don't know. But the point is, the way I'm thinking, if they walked into like a dimensional portal, there might have been a point where she couldn't come back, okay? Or maybe wherever she went, it looked exactly like the place where she was in the first place, but it was just probably no people there. Or maybe there was, but it wasn't the people that she knew, and she was forced to live her life in this other dimension. Maybe she walked right into a dimensional portal where it led to another Earth. Maybe she went to a parallel world where she just had to live her life, forcefully, and just start all over, somewhere, until she passed away. Because like I said, she was 80 years old, so who knows? Like all these other people, they disappeared without a trace. Maybe they had no other choice but to start a new life somewhere and live their life without their family and friends. Or maybe they did find their family and friends, but they didn't know her. She probably didn't even exist on that planet, on that planet or that world. It could be anything, So, but or maybe, okay, like in these other cases where people disappear, they just tend to wander off. They walk to an area, and when they're found, the body found, they're found in an area where they shouldn't have been in, or it was very hard to get to, so there wouldn't have been no way for them to get there in the first place. But I'm thinking that whatever's taking these people, they probably need their intelligence, they probably need their life force, they probably need their wisdom, which is why a lot of elderly people are being taken. They probably somehow, some way, they feed off of who they are and what they have as far as being human. They feed off of their intelligence, they feed off of their personality, all these things. Maybe on the world where these people, all these things come from, they don't have that. I don't know. But that's all I have for that story. I gotta go. But I will, like I said, keep reading up on the cases, and I will feed them to you so that you can, get an idea of what's really going on out here. So stay tuned, and I will return. So always important, aloha, mahalo, and a hula. Peace. Be blessed, guys.